Okay, we appear to be recording.
Can we have a beer now?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is one time and one time only. It's hashtag beer time. It's been a while since I've recorded a podcast, but you know what? Let's do it.
Has it been a while though?
It's been a while. It's been a while. But you know,
Like how long?
I don't know. I think it's been about maybe even 2 to 3 months.
Oh, T-Bone.
All this traveling, this jet set lifestyle is getting in between you and the beer.
I've been focusing on things like homebrewing competitions, but let's get into that a little bit later. Let me first, for those of you who can't see us, because we're doing a little double up here with the camera in front of us if you want to watch on YouTube, but let me introduce these guests. Guests or Raffalians? What's the word I'm looking for?
Raffalians, I can tell you it's not that.
It's not that.
It's rapscallions, it might be.
I haven't even had a beer. Maybe that's the problem.
But I think that is the problem.
I
There's
think that's
no
the
beer
problem.
in these glasses.
Let me introduce you guys. This is the Cart Horse Homebrewers Club, the most elite, sophisticated, by invite only, and even then not guaranteed homebrew club. So we've got Mr. Ross, Mr. Tony, Mr. Cole, Mr. Greg. Gentlemen, hello.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. My captain.
This is, I think there are 5 of us. I'm trying to think the last time I had 5 guys on my show, and it wasn't pleasant.
The other show.
It wasn't pleasant because I think it got a bit messy. But I think we'll try and hold the reins, so to speak. But let's, as you said. Oh, you like that, hey?
It's the one horse pun ding.
Ding.
We're going to keep a little record, yeah.
We should start with a beer, guys. So let's jump straight into it. I know we've got somewhat of an order of how we're going to do it, but Tony, if you want to reach into that bag and grab out, let's start with a big purple can. And now, so gentlemen, I've been overseas. I was very lucky
Sexy.
to
That is purple.
That is very purple. Let's show that to the people who are watching.
Yeah.
This is, let me describe it. It's a 500ml can that has been shrink wrapped, and it's very purple.
That's good.
And it's got what appears to be a very
psychedelic
feather.
Trippy
Thank
feather,
you.
yeah.
A very trippy feather. And wait till you
Yeah,
hear what kind of beer it is.
She has a name.
It's 6%. It's called Bianca.
No, there we go.
She is a
like
fiery cracker, that Bianca.
Tony had an ex-girlfriend called Bianca.
Yeah, I did. And she was purple.
Wow. This is a mango lassi goza.
What? Yes. Right.
Now, you guys are the food experts. What's the first thing you think of when you think of mango lassi?
Dairy.
It's
Isn't it dairy?
it's the Asian
Yeah, it's
Indian.
like
It's a juice.
It's like a drink, yeah. But it's
Probably should have researched this
Yeah,
because
no.
I'm asking you guys.
And we probably should know this as well.
no, I was.
Can you make it on a braai?
I'm sure it's got dairy in it.
How about this? How about we
Yeah.
try it?
Let's try it.
And then we can decide what it is. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, try it. Good.
Guys, it's so good to actually
So
be
good.
recording again and drinking beer.
It's been a long time. Drew.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yep,
That's gonna do it.
that looks like what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, it's made from a
there we
sweet
go.
Indian froyo smoothie made from fresh mango, Greek yogurt, and milk.
And that's what a lassie is.
So not
That's
a
what a
curry.
lassie is. Yeah. Well, if you're in Scotland, a lassie is something else.
Lassie.
But a lassie.
Lassie.
But if you're in India, that's what it is. So there must be some dairy in there, no?
I'm afraid. Okay, there's a little bit of English here.
Smells good.
Store dark and cold. Yeah, that's it.
That's
Contains
no-
barley,
no
wheat, oats, and
sugar.
lactose sugar.
Oh, there you go.
And it's from Omnipolo. We've heard of them, huh?
Oh wow! Well, there you go. We might have another one.
Gents?
Huh?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cheers. Hey, good to be back.
Hey, Cartos.
Yeah. It's got a
So what
it's
do
got
you?
quite a mango-ish nose, eh? Funny that.
Funny that.
And a mango-ish flavour. That's really tasty.
So
That's when you know when everyone goes quiet. Quickly.
yeah, we're trying to analyze it. What? I'm gonna put Ross and Tony on the spot here because.
The most uneducated palate.
Thank you. The youngest mayors
Call it what it
of the
is.
club. What's when you think of Stallions, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that one slide?
Philly, foal,
Yeah,
big foal.
Things have changed.
Bucks, are they called bucks?
You guys have got beers. You're definitely stallions. When you think of Goza, what do you think of? What's
I
the
think
first?
of straight away berries, some sour berries.
Okay, that's probably from a beer that you've had a berry Goza.
Yeah.
Anything that springs to mind?
I
Ross?
went to a beer fest once and they served a goza. So I just remember that beer fest. That's all I can remember. It was with you, Carl. We were sitting. Remember we drank that goza. Can't remember which goza it was, but it was the food pairing thing.
Oh,
The
yes,
fermented
the
pairing.
fermented pairing.
Yeah. At the Falls and Pan.
I don't know who made that, but it was good.
It was a good
Yeah.
can't
Was it
remember, but that's
Goza?
what I associate goza with. That
So
beer fest.
you guys also please help me out
Yes.
here. Goza is a German
Salted
beer,
beer,
but it's a
yeah.
salted beer sometimes made with seawater. It can contain different cloves or different herbs, but the main element is that it is a salty beer.
Yeah.
This Bianca beer may be missing out on
Yeah,
that.
it's not as.
It's more of a
Yeah.
milk. It's almost like a white stout. It's got a bit of like a.
It's quite tart.
If someone called this a mango white stout, I'd be like, cool, well made.
Yeah.
It's very tasty, but I mean, maybe the sweetness from the lactose sugar is just cancelling out the
Well,
salt.
I would say the salt, if anything, it's got a bit of a dry finish. You can probably get it in the mouthfeel. Yeah, a little bit.
But it's delicious.
Pretty
Feel
tasty.
this is
Pretty tasty.
the
Yeah,
right
you know the
temperature.
thing with the goat, it's like Ghostbusters.
Quite cold.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking
Unafraid,
at
was
the.
it?
I ain't afraid of no goza.
Unafraid.
Goza.
Yeah, was that the next one?
So the expiry date is only in November. So this is actually quite a young beer. And that's the one thing I've promised myself going forward is to drink beers when I get them.
Yeah.
Because I've still got beers in the back of my fridge which are beautiful beers, but they're all IPAs.
I'll
and
let you-
what's the point?
There's no point,
No.
man. Unless it's a big boozy type beer. I mean,
Like
somebody
like
was
a
tweeting.
Dubbel or a
Yeah, someone was tweeting about it on Andy Crouch, that beer scribe guy, talking about aging beers, and somebody was complaining about it. Like you shouldn't really do it, but then sometimes you should. But unless it's a hoppy beer, then you shouldn't do it.
Unless you paid 115 Rand for it. Then you should keep it.
Give us some clarity. What are you talking about, Tony? Did you just pay 150 Rand for a beer?
Yes. I was Rob.
At least it was an international beer.
Spent 115 Rand on a pint.
what?
Shocking.
Where was
But you know what?
Where was
my
this?
fault, this was at the Mojo Market. I should have asked for the price.
And it was the Le Chouf, you
Yes.
said. No, okay.
The gnomes got you.
I doubt that the beer can be that expensive. I think there was a mistake. There has to be some internal error.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, Le Chouf is at best, what, 60 Rand?
If even, yeah.
If even.
I mean, I was going to say 50 something, but I mean, it's a delicious beer. I love it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't pay 110 Rand or 15 Rand for it, whatever it was.
And I suppose the guy wanted a tip as well.
No. there was no
You
tip.
can get
Yeah,
Here's your tip.
there's none of that happening.
But I enjoyed the beer.
But
I've
you're
gotten over it.
You're not going to do that again.
And
Have
not
you?
again.
It doesn't sound like you have.
I must remember.
So,
Not to say, speaking of which,
I was going to say, speaking of saving beers, it's a little cart or secret. One day, we are going to drink Troy May, Masters and May #1.
do you still?
The first beer you ever homebrewed.
Was it the first beer?
It's
you
sitting
made?
in the back of my fridge. It's got a
Right.
#1 on the lid.
I brewed that with old Hilton Brown, who I
Yes.
saw 2 weekends ago in Italy. But yeah, we made that from a syrup beer, a canned beer.
So it's definitely not going to be good.
It's definitely not.
Maybe we'll just keep it.
It's more ceremonial than anything.
Yeah, I think when we buy our new brewery, we can swing it onto the brewery. One of those.
And infect the entire place. Shit!
Oh,
Brett everywhere.
let's clean up, guys.
Yeah.
Guys, should we?
I like this.
That was 10 minutes. So I think we should have another one.
Yeah.
I
this
will tell you what, that was delicious.
Where is Omnipolo from?
Who wants to Google that shit?
Yeah, I actually don't know.
Don't you have one as well?
we do. Yeah, I did get a second one. I'm gonna guess it's German because I think the second one we've had is also from.
I thought it was Denmark. I thought it was Omnipolo's Denmark, but I'm now standing.
It might be.
in the
We
dark.
do have some Danish beers. I don't know if we're gonna get to them today though. But I did get a.
See, Greg, we have this discussion every time. Is that
Yeah.
when you and I come together, we always try and bring out and compete with one another.
Stockholm.
To is
There we
Stockholm? Oh, so Sweden.
There.
Was close.
So not
Stockholm, Germany.
So not Germany or Denmark. Okay, cool.
Somewhere in the
Close
region.
enough.
But Greg, you and I always try and get out the big beers. But as we've agreed, maximum 6 beers.
No, we got it. So
Yeah.
we're going to drink the rest afterwards.
Yeah, but this
So that's
the,
fine.
prob- the,
Sorry
the,
for you.
Six
the
beers
problem
on
is that
the
we
show.
get to number 6 and then you start looking at me and like I start looking at you and me.
Maybe we should have some more.
My head starts shaking. Let's crack on with our next beer. And as I said, these are all beers that I bought from. Where did I get them? I got them in a shop in Germany, in Munich. It was called it translated to the beer library. So it was the Bibliothek or something like that. Okay. And it was I enjoyed the process because you walked in. It was almost like walking into a library because the beers are on a bookshelf, at an angled bookshelf, and you walk in, and I was like, oh, this is great. Let me, not a big selection, but let me just take the beers I want. And I took them up to the counter and I said, cool, I'll have these. And I'm sure he gets this a lot. But what he actually did is then he went into his fridge in the back where all the beers are kept cold. The beers out in front are just for display.
It's a good idea.
Even though it's
Cool.
even though the beers, I suppose he takes, like, if he gets a 6-pack, he'll take 1 can and put it on display.
Yeah.
So I thought that was brilliant. I mean, he's keeping these beers in cold storage.
Unlike here, where they just put everything on the shelf.
Everything on the shelf. But I mean, the Germans are pretty strict when it comes to beer. But I quite liked how they had arranged that. I got myself a few beers, much to my wife's delight, and we didn't have enough space in our case, so I actually had to buy another suitcase.
Well,
But
there
that's-
you go.
Priorities.
That is
That's
commitment.
Priorities.
And I've always heard people doing those kind of things, buying extra suitcases for their beers, and I always wondered, what would life be like if I was in that kind of realm? But
Unlocked
yeah,
an achievement.
I do
there.
feel, I gave myself a little pat on the
know,
back. Let's crack on with the next beer. I think there's an alpaca beer there. It's a short beer, a little stumpy. And guys, again, most of these beers I've never tried. I got them half on a whim in terms of what they look like, but also I asked the guy in the shop what would be a good beer.
Show the good people.
Show the good
there we go.
people, but from what I understand, this is just a generic ale. Maybe you can read something out.
Generic ale.
It's mate ale.
It's a mate ale.
Whatever that is.
It's made
And I think I've seen the leggings like this before and boots. Like anyway.
We don't want to know what your closet
No,
story is, Greg.
right. Alpaca mate ale. That is literally it.
That's all it says, eh?
Yeah.
The rest is
That's what
German.
we got.
But read on the side. What do you see on the side of the label there?
Drink
Sure.
fuel.
I see an expiry date, which is pretty cool. I like the way they mark that.
They've marked it.
Yeah.
For the people listening, they've printed the label, and they've got the months printed by numbers on the side, and then the years different. They've got 2019, 20, 21, but on that label, then they've actually made like a scorecard clip, so you can see where the date
Let's
is.
not be heathens here.
It's not. Oh, we're gonna rinse.
Well, we can.
Oh, wow, that's
rinse
clever.
it.
Okay, let's rinse.
Okay.
We are, yeah, exactly. We are sophisticated horses.
See how long this lasts.
Yeah, right.
Beer number 4. Fuck it, just pour it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you wanna give a little pawpaw or?
No,
Pawpaw. Is there
no.
pawpaw in this beer, Troy?
No?
Huh? Nice colour.
Yeah. It's got a golden. No, I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but this.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say I've seen this color when I've been dehydrated.
There's a little bit more.
After a hard day.
Oh, there's work. Hey, right.
It's looking a bit flat, but actually maybe it's. I'm gonna read the alcohol. It's 5.8.
5.8. It's chunky.
The ingredients are Wasser, Gerstenmalz, Roggenmalz, Hefe, Hopfen, Mate, Mechrech van Flasche. So if you're a German speaker, I'm sorry I just butchered that. But
Did a good job.
Maybe I should attempt it after 6 beers, and then we'll see what happens.
Dude, I quite like how that smells.
I'm going to see what it is. I found
No
it.
noses.
So it's got quite a nice, very nice orange tint to it. And I must say, it's got
almost like a farmhouse ale nose for me.
You
definitely
love
got
that
a-
shit, don't you?
No, it's not quite there, but it's
it's like almost like an apple, an orange dessert or something. I'm trying to
Like a bitter orange.
orange rind,
It's surprising. It's only 5%.
but it's also got a bit of
5.8,
a.
huh?
Oh, 5%.
It's also got a bit of a. Is it like a Christmas pie, like a something? Christmas tart.
It
It's
is
like
a spiced herb beer. apparently.
spice herb beer.
So there's something,
Okay, so
there's
we
something
get-
in there.
Like a Christmas cake.
like a
sort of
cinnamon,
idea.
yeah, like a bit of a.
But that's also got marzipan in it, which is like an almond sort of vibe. So it could.
Hot cross bun.
There you go.
It's actually very light on the taste. The smell is actually beautiful, but
Yeah, it lightens up.
when you
flavour.
when you try it, when you drink it, it actually it
quite
doesn't
nice.
carry the aroma doesn't really carry through into the taste.
Too bitter though, I think.
Really,
I found it's a bit overpowering at the beginning.
with the bitterness. Well, then maybe you should skip the
Yeah.
quadruple IPA that we.
What do you do?
That's why we're on a progression journey here.
We're
You
gonna
don't
have
find
this sink into himself.
You don't find it's too cold.
It
It is quite cold.
It is
maybe,
cold.
Maybe take out the next one so we get a bit of.
Let's. I'm actually gonna just swirl this in my hand before I finish it.
That's
So
a good idea, Tony. I think maybe take out the next one. I'm not too sure what that one is.
Just take them all out.
Take them all out, John.
Just take them all out.
Take it out. It's really cold. It's quite tasty. I like it.
I enjoyed that. That was
So let
that was
me
quite yummy.
let me continue telling you guys a little bit about Germany because I think, well, why not?
We watched all your Instagram stories. We don't care.
You don't care. I know. I had a lot of people say.
I'm joking. I enjoyed it. I felt like I was there with you. I followed you into the Bibliothek or whatever
Thank
it
you
was
very
called.
much. So Germany is still very much Reinheitsgebot.
Old school.
And Munich is the epicenter. Munich is where it all started. And when you go into, I don't know about the rest of Germany, but when you go into Munich, there's 6 main breweries. These are the big guys. And that is it. That's pretty much all the beer that you're going to find.
No small stuff.
You are going to find, but it's still very like, I don't know if anti is the right word, but it's just, in Germany, you drink lager.
Yeah.
And you,
What are the big 6?
Just traditional.
You set this whole
Hof-
thing up.
yeah.
Don't drop the ball
well, the
now.
two are one's the one.
Hofbrau.
I went into Hofbrau
Yeah.
and then I went into Augustina.
Mhm.
Those are the only 2 that I went into. But all the restaurants stock a different beer, and it kind of works like that. I did go into a small artisanal brewery, which was beautiful. It was actually stunning. It was beautiful copper pots, beautiful restaurants, unbelievable food, like amazing food. Like that's how you cook a pork knuckle over
Oh,
there.
really?
Like,
Was it crispy?
super crispy
Was it-
everywhere.
Yeah,
not
that's
not
good.
like the attempts that are made here. in
Yeah,
South
like
Africa.
half rubbery, half crispy.
So the one thing, unfortunately, and this is actually, I'd say this with a lot of respect to that brewer. I won't mention his name, but the beers were actually bang average, if not
The mass
fail.
market. The mass market?
no.
Oh, sorry, the small
the
place.
small artisanal
Oh,
one,
really?
which had a quite a big star rating on Google.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, oh my word, there's
And I
tons
bet
of
you
breweries.
told them they were amazing.
Tons of breweries in South Africa that are way above that.
Well, that's good to know.
And
Wow.
yeah, so I was like, wow, okay. But then I suppose it was a pity because then it just, not that it was a bad thing, but it forced me just to drink a lager. And
But the lagers there are really good.
they are
You know, so that's the thing. Like when you've been doing it right for so long, you know, I wouldn't mind going to Germany and drinking lagers. I'll be okay with it.
this beer does have a bit more bitterness as it's warmed up. So I agree with you there. Let's
Best beer you had over there?
okay, I'll tell you that story. Let's move on to our next beer because we've got empty glasses.
Okay, yeah. Empty
And I think
glasses
that's
on a beer show, never a good thing.
that's unacceptable. Mr. Tony, I think there might be another ale there. I'm not too sure. I know that we have a sneaky milk. Bring them all out. Let's have a look, and then I can actually tell you which one we should be
wait,
having.
look at it.
That's for the end.
That's for later.
That's a little.
Let's. Are we going to put them all out? Do you want to?
Yeah, we can put them all
then
out.
at least everyone can see what we're talking about. Let's do that.
Let's have
We
that.
have Henry and Sally.
We'll have a Henry and Sally now.
Nice.
Okay.
We don't have
Let's-
this one here. We didn't have this one here. What was the one we had? We had Mary and. We had Mary McKellar. We had Mary and Peter.
Mary Peter.
Mary and Peter.
Yeah.
We didn't have this one though. Eh?
So this is one of those beers that unfortunately has been in my fridge a little bit too long, but it's still within the expiry date. So let's crack it open.
At
Let's see
least
what
it's
it's
not
like.
hoppy or anything.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Are we still getting McKellar here? Or was that dream dead?
I think the dream has maybe passed on.
It's quite sad.
So no more McKellar, yeah.
No.
Ever again.
Well, I think the whole whatever deal they had is no longer with Devils.
So just tell the people, the lovely people, this beer we are having from
So
McKellar.
it is a Henry and Sally IPA from McKellar.
Yes.
India Pale Ale. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
What's
All
the expiry date
Oh
then?
wait, all the usual ingredients including wheat flakes, hops and yeast. It is a 6% alcohol in a 330ml can, and it is.
Expiring soon, I think.
Smells like
No,
cheese.
we've got
Yeah,
Those are cheesy.
November 2019.
Oh, okay.
So we're good.
Great. I think then I must have got this in February somewhere.
Still in the
Somehow.
vein.
I'm not sure how or where, but
Hope it tastes better than it smells.
But this, are you not enjoying the smell?
It does have a
Bit
funkiness
funky,
to it.
I like it.
Bit
tastes pretty good,
funky
though.
here in it. Yeah, it's got quite a nose. Eh?
But
Again, it's quite cold.
It's changing, man. It's just warm.
It's quite cold. I would warm it up a little bit, but that is
It tastes good.
A little bit grassy.
that's delicious. Got a bit of a passion fruit.
Passion fruit.
taste, yeah.
No, for sure.
But I'm going to let that warm up. Let me get back to
Best beer you have.
answering your question, best beer,
Yeah.
and let me set the scene. I just finished the Salzburg Marathon, so 42 Ks.
Whoop,
Is that's why you went there? Hey?
Half and half.
Sort
I actually
of,
had a
yeah.
wedding. I had my best friend's wedding.
Okay. Just chuck
Might
it
as
in.
well, you
Just
might as
chuck
well do
it
a
in half
marathon at the same
marathon.
time.
Might as well just do a marathon. So there's this
Run off
place
as
that we
pork,
went to, which we only discovered, which was literally 5 minutes walk from our Airbnb. It was the Augustiner Braustube. I'm not too sure if it had anything to do with the Augustiner that I spoke about in Munich. Someone might be able to correct me on that. I don't think it was though, but this is, if you can imagine, if you've ever been to Forries in Cape Town, just imagine that times 10. You had massive old beer halls. I think you had 5 massive beer halls. You had a beer garden that was bigger than anything I've ever seen. And they serve the beer in these big clay mugs.
Yeah.
Obviously a one liter. I mean, obviously I'm going to go for the 1 liter.
I'm in already.
And you,
Wild boar on the fire.
you collect your mug, you go and pay for your beer, and then there's this tap that's always running. You go fill it under, rinse your glass out,
Self-serve.
and then you take it to the guy there's a big barrel, and he just
Oh,
pours.
man.
It's just one beer. It's a Marzen lager, and I had dreams about this while I was over there, and I thought of you guys. If ever we get the right equipment, or if ever I try brew a lager, it will be a Marzen lager.
Couldn't we brew it now in winter? I mean, it's cold, man.
Yeah, maybe. We might need a little bit colder temperatures. Just
chest freezer.
Sub 5.
Yeah.
So I managed to.
Just let me in, guys. Just let me in.
I managed to put back 3 liters of that Marzen
Well
lager,
done.
and I was still fine afterwards. But it was.
Lauren, think you.
But those are normally like up at around 7% or something, is it not?
It was,
No.
it was just short
Not
of
so bad.
6.
Yeah.
But why should we try and make it and just go there and have it?
But yeah, it was the
Yeah, let's
setting.
just
It
go
was
now.
the everything that just worked its way together. And I suppose that's what beers are. It's the setting that you're in. I mean, for some people,
What do you think about? This is just kind of not off topic, but it's just a curious
we
question.
can go for it.
What do you think about drinking a beer out of a clay mug, like an old school flagon type?
Game of
It's-
Thrones vibe.
Yeah,
I think it depends on your setting.
yeah.
I mean, when I was lucky enough to go to the town of Pilsen, I bought a Pilsen Urquell mug, the one with a lid that you push up and to prevent things from falling in and prevent people from, I don't know, stealing your beer. I haven't used it since being in Cape Town because it's just not the right setting. I mean, can you imagine me inviting mates around for a beer? I give you guys normal glasses and then I sit with my flagon and
Like
cheers,
a
guys.
proper beer hipster. Yeah.
I fell in love with those clay pots.
Are you concerned about being able to see the beer?
In Germany, no.
In Germany, no. Okay.
I think if I had to visit somewhere like CBC, SAB Newlands, and they served it in that, I'd be like, cool, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being unfair, but I think it's also very much in terms of the right condition and the right space.
Sure.
I think there's probably something to be said for whether you're going there to kind of really taste beer and experience, or whether you're going to sit down and have liter mugs in a clay flagon, which
3 liter
sounds amazing.
It was a fantastic experience. One thing I do want to say before I forget, they had running cold water. What they also had was a warming section with warm water. And I kept asking myself, why is that? My wife and I, we were trying to decide. My dad actually said, well, in the winter months, it's obviously freezing. And if you rinse your clay mug out with 1-2 degree water,
Frozen.
it's going to make your cup really cold. And then when you drink your beer, it's going to be, I suppose, even colder.
Okay.
So by warming your mug up, you would actually raise the temperature of the beer. We're talking maybe 1 or 2 degrees. But it's that kind of accuracy and attention to detail that I really appreciated, which I was like, cool. I mean, we won't need that here, hopefully. We don't get that cold.
No.
But all that talking just kind of made me remember.
I will say this beer is delicious.
Yeah, it's nice.
This is,
It's,
you kind of, when you see a McKellar beer, you know you're going to, you'll drop some money.
Have a good result.
But super juicy, not too malty. Like,
It's pretty hoppy.
yeah, like really hoppy.
Ross, your thoughts? You've been,
And not too
very
bitter.
quiet, right?
It's almost like a New England thing.
There's just a lot of beer action going on here, and
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and I'm just trying to soak it up. But that beer was damn good.
How many?
I feel that when you drink a beer and you're not very conscious of drinking it, that obviously makes it pretty sessionable. But it's like if you're drinking it, you're just like first couple of sips, like wow, that's good. But if you continue drinking it and you're not thinking about it, that means it's good. If it's like
If every sip is a stretch.
where you're like, we've got to get through this.
No, you don't have to do that, yeah.
What's the RBU on that?
It's got to be up there.
I would say this would not be more than 60.
As much as that. Yeah.
I would say it's probably, if I had to guess, probably less than that. It doesn't have that like multi-American backbone, like the sweet nectar that's kind of backing up like 60, 65. I would say that's
It's more of a passion fruit sweetness.
40, 45. Like that for me is almost more New Englandish. Like it's that fruity and that juicy. The hops are all up front, but it's not very, like I don't think it's very bitter.
Henry, sadly.
I'll say
we can
54.
Google it.
Well,
again-
yeah, Google, listen, I called the lassie a curry earlier, so it's anyway. It's
Whatever.
really anyone's guess.
Don't listen to Greg.
Yeah, don't believe me. Whatever you don't, it's we'll see.
It isn't hazy, you're right.
There's another beautiful can and another beautiful artwork. Speaking of beautiful artwork, this is very artistic. This is a collab. It looks like from Magic Rock Brewing and Dixon's. But I'm trying to see. It says Dixon's Milk Ices, so maybe they've done an ice cream shop.
Yeah. So they could
Okay.
do like ice lollies or.
Yeah.
something.
So this is
Why don't we Google what they do?
a dairy free, and it's a milk ice porter. So Ross, won't you please
Sounds interesting.
have a little look there in terms of
What is it Dixon's?
Dixon's, yeah. 5.2%, best before sea base. Oh yeah, this is a best before November, so we've got some time here. Let me just peel this off here.
So this is in London, England. Sorry, this is in Huddersfield in the United
Okay, that's not
Kingdom.
coming off.
Dixon's
See that
Milk Ices, is that it? Do you think that's them?
Probably.
Well, I googled Dixon's ice cream because if you Google Dixon's, you're going to come up with squillion different. Yeah. Based on what the this is definitely them.
Yeah.
Must be.
There
It's
we
got
go.
the same
There we go.
vibe.
So these guys.
So it's an
do-
ice cream shop and a
it's
beer
an ice cream
cola.
shop. So they did
Okay.
ice cream. Wow.
Nice.
Best of both worlds. Ice cream and
Ice
beer.
cream and beer.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Smells good.
Dixon's
What is it supposed to be? Sorry, I was zoned out
It's
there.
meant to be a milk ice porter.
Oh.
Milk ice
Do you like a
porter.
porter?
Let's see what this is like.
Get it.
I was expecting it to be white.
It's ice cream. Why is it not white?
Whoa! It looks like a stout.
Porter.
A porter.
Yeah.
Because it is a porter, isn't it?
Porter.
Did I read that one wrong? I thought it was something else.
That's beautiful.
Smells good.
It's my kind of beer.
This is old.
It almost smells like the Citizen Pacifist. Because
Yes,
I've been
right.
drinking a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You've got some of that here, eh?
Yep.
Ooh, maybe we should
It's
have one.
actually good.
It's like cocoa.
very
It's
It
very
does
With
have
the
a cocoa.
Vanilla cocoa. Yeah.
Smells like.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good.
That's,
Get him a belly.
Oof, that's nice.
that's a good dessert beer.
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is your dessert beer. This is.
That'll. Yo.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
So smooth.
Really good. Yeah.
So it's definitely. I mean,
It's.
definite Dixon's coming through there. The
So this is an
Ice
obvious.
creams.
It's a great pair in terms of the ice cream and the beer. I read an article the other day on guys are really trying to find every angle now in terms of mixing
Yeah.
food into beer and finding different elements that will fit into a beer. So I suppose that's when you reach a certain ceiling, you're just going to start pushing
Yeah.
above that.
Look, porter and stout territory is great because
Yeah.
anything dark roasted, chocolatey, coffee, you're in a good place. So really good, man. I love porters.
I'm gonna. To be honest, I'm gonna go and say that this is a little bit sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
maybe.
there.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at guys that have done it before. Guys like Devil's Peak when they brought out the other ones, the milkshake.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the
Choc shop.
choc shake,
choc shake,
and then the
yeah.
choc shake, and then there was the other one. There was also like a chocolate
Yeah, yeah.
something. But I mean, you're talking about massive beers.
Yeah.
Sitting at like 10.5 or 8.5%. Somewhere in that range, where it gets quite big and quite boozy and quite warming. Where this being on a porter, and I'm gonna guess not as high in alcohol.
5.2.
Yeah, 5.2. So that's super low. Super low.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a touch too sweet, but I don't know how many you'd smash.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
You'd have one maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but would you kick off with one of these? Or would
I
you
don't
end,
know.
like,
Yeah.
You know.
I think this beer falls under the same kind of category where it's an intense first sip.
Yeah.
Maybe not intense, but it's one of those beers where after that sip, once the taste dissipates in your mouth, you go back to it.
You'll probably you'll settle into it.
It's like a sour beer that you drink. It's like, oh, that's very sour, and then 10 seconds later, you actually wanting more.
Yeah.
I would say this beer is actually falling into that category where I don't want it to end.
I think if you had a slight bit of malt
I'm sad
bitterness,
I have
just
to share it with all of you guys. But
Well,
But these are the
you
things-
organise this thing.
yes,
Yeah.
Funny, all I think about
Get
is
you back on the next one.
making a waffle out
Yeah.
of the beer.
But does the
It's
flavour
got
ever
that
really come
sweetness.
through though? Like I've made a lot of pancake waffles and beer waffles and whatever's, and I don't know. I sometimes find that it's more of a good idea than it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose if you know,
It's
maybe
a
if
good
you
beer,
reduce the
but
beer,
I
but that's
think
an expensive beer to turn into a waffle.
Yeah, right.
about $115.
Yeah.
do what we would do. Throw malt into the waffle and drink the beer on the side. That's
But I'll be quite interested to see. We've got some of that.
soak the waffle in the beer.
No.
We've got some of that Citizen Pacifist here. And it's last year's batch because I didn't brew it this year, and I've been drinking it at home, and it's really good. And it'd be nice to see how it stands up to this.
You're 100% right. It's sweet. It's got that.
I know we've got this beer here, but before we do that,
Yes.
let's do the beer that we came here for.
Boom.
Yes.
The winning beer.
Why are we here?
Why are we
We haven't
here?
even
No, it's in the
discussed.
fridge. I gotta
No,
get
no.
it.
Let's. You can.
No, no.
You can
We've
get
got to
it.
get. We've got to get.
Gotta get it.
Okay, so get the big one is in the freezer, and then the two bottles are in the front.
We get both of them.
No, put them back because we.
Okay, let's push pause there.
Okay, yeah. Pills.
Whoa.
So,
We're back.
Get out of the road.
I thought we were only getting one more.
Don't make any plans.
we got time.
So, gentlemen, what happened? What monumentous occasion happened in the last few weeks? I was away, so I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Carl,
Carl's
tell
got
us.
Talk us through.
And butter it up a bit.
Yeah, I'll butter. Don't worry, I got lots of butter. So a couple of weeks ago was the powwow, South Africa's sort of big conference on craft beer.
I was very sad to miss
They
that.
flew out Garrett Oliver from Brooklyn Brewery.
Very sad.
It was a bunch of really cool people, and it was our first time. We got asked to cook on the Friday nights, which was amazing. We pulled the Land Rover in, had a good old time, got drunk, cooked a bunch of ribs and a bunch more, probably the most ribs and wings we've ever cooked in one go.
Easily.
But we had a professional kitchen behind us, which was amazing.
Which was great.
So it's nice to not have to do everything.
Not just the Land Rover. Just one for now.
And then we went inside.
The other one will have after this.
Jeez, you don't get stingy, eh? Stingy, eh?
Yeah.
Ew.
Troy is pulling the reins here.
Someone had to bottle these.
So anyway,
Continue.
after we did all our work, we went inside and we started drinking seriously. And we were standing at the back while Garrett Oliver was doing his whole intro on how he got into brewing and what's it all about and everything. He's a very funny guy. And then they started announcing the winners of the homebrew competition. And we didn't even know that Cart Horse, Cape Town's most established and esteemed club, was even in it. And we were talking at the back, and they said, I forget who was second and third because it doesn't really matter. And then they said, and the winners, Troy May, and he wasn't there. And then they looked at us, and we were surprised and ran up there. And
Did they not say cart horse?
I don't listen to Troy. I don't
because
remember.
I wrote all our names.
They may
all
have.
our
They may
names
have. I
on
can't
the
remember.
list.
Did they say Cart Horse?
No, it says
No,
Troy
it
May.
said
on
Troy
the
May,
wall.
yeah.
You know you didn't write.
I wrote
anything.
all our
You
names.
didn't
It
write.
doesn't
All
matter.
our
It doesn't
names.
matter.
You guys were lost in
We
the
walked
moment.
up there. We
Assistant brewers.
high-fived Garrett. It was amazing.
Yeah, it really
And then
was.
we got this big old prize, which is sitting in the brewery downstairs. And we were the heroes, Troy. We took the glory.
What is that prize?
The prize was there was a 2-night stay for you and Lauren, or for you and whoever you choose on our hat with us.
I don't know.
Whichever horseshoe you pick out the hat. And then we got a bunch of malts and a bunch of hops and a cap, which I took for myself because,
Why not?
free caps are good.
My wife would kill me if I didn't have a cap in my house, so that's good.
It was great. Yeah, hops, malts, cap, 2-night stay at the Hotel Verde, which is pretty sexy. We stayed there.
Actually,
So we got some nice malts.
how good was
Yeah.
that night?
No, there's good stuff there. And
I mean, we had such a cool night.
You
It was
couldn't,
amazing.
unless you
Wait,
bought
we
a
weren't
ticket.
invited.
Unless you bought a ticket, which was really expensive. That's the only drawback of the powwow, is that it's a 3-day thing, so it's pricey, but it's well worth it.
Cart Hall.
I know.
You could have organised
So
something.
Tony and I are just
PLC.
a little bit, Tony and I
PTY
were just
limited.
we felt a little bit excluded because
We
weren't there.
we
So,
social media'd you guys in.
of all the Kartos clan, one name was mentioned, which was Troy. He just happened to be in Yugoslavia or
Yeah.
whatever. And the other
That's
two
the
were
place.
Greg and Carl, who were busy getting drunk at the back. And like, oh, you guys just want something? Yeah. And there's like Tony and Ross.
We sent you we sent
Tony and
pictures.
Ross.
Like,
Tony and no, not even in the
we
echoes
were
of what happened.
working.
yeah, we were working. technically.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so
and
But anyway,
and part of
and
the
so-
prize was a free karaoke session with Lucy.
Yes, but it is gold. It's gold
That's
at the
the most
Craft Brewers
important thing.
Power, which is fucking amazing.
I don't, think I
So
don't think we've ever won a
and then
gold
you
or
up,
anything.
and we were up
Won
against
nothing. This
Nothing.
is the first thing we've ever won.
up against
Should we
Anthony.
cheers?
Together,
Let's
it's
cheers.
gold.
Well done, boys.
I think Anthony came second.
Look at it.
Yeah.
He normally
And
wins
Anthony
everything.
normally wins.
That looks like gold.
everything.
Oh, really? Let's.
Oh, look at that color!
Ooh,
Look at that color!
Look at that, eh?
What beer is this?
Okay, so this is the winning beer. I think it's called Double
Dabble.
Dabble. Troy just thinking on the feet there when he was entering it.
On the company club.
But yeah, this is it, man.
So
And it scored well. They sent
And
through
it
the
is
scores.
8 months old.
So Belgian, the reason we made a Belgian double, I think it's one of those beers that I've always liked making. It's even though I don't like raisins, it is a kind of sweetish beer that lends itself towards that
Yeah.
profile. It's boozy, but I also think it's not overwhelmingly boozy, and I just like the sweetness, the rich malt flavors that come through. And so
Tell us more about the beer you made, Rob. What else? Explain.
but when we first tried this, I think it was maybe 2 months old. It was very spicy, very alcoholic, and I think we all
boozy
thought
as fuck,
we
remember?
were all like,
boozy.
oh shit, let's just leave this. And I think
Thank God you did, because
the
imagine you
one
didn't.
the one lesson I have learned from homebrewing is that if you have a high alcohol beer or a very malty beer that's maybe not right or perfect now, wait 6 months.
But,
Let it wait. And I think I've seen that a lot with some of the South African commercial beers where they've released it instantly and like, what do you guys think? And it's like,
it needs a bit of time,
you could leave this in your fridge for a year. And
but this goes back to the conversation we had earlier about hobby beers. You're not going to do that. You want it to be fresh. But this style of beer, this sort of old world, more malt forward, bigger boozy, it does well if it sits for a while. So, yeah.
I mean, this is still like the spicy raisin side of things, like almost like sultanas and
it's not as aggressive.
So it's not the quad like the rum and raisin, like heavy side of things. It's like a dried fruit.
And the head retention, man. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you phoned me when I was entering the beers.
Yeah.
And you said, Troy, I just opened a bottle and it's a dud. Don't enter it. Don't enter
Dude,
it.
you're 100% right. I did. I took one of the small bottles
And I was like,
with the swing top. Did it?
I was so upset. And then
that might have just been not sealed.
Yeah, I know. No, right. I think it might have just been that. Because popped it and there was no like nothing. Poured it dead flat. Basically like sultana juice.
They could have had that bottle rubbish. And it just would have...
You never know, man. We went up to Joburg 2 days ago to go and judge in the Sunday Times.
Macro.
I saw that,
And
were you guys invited?
No.
There was...
Why would we be?
Well, I mean...
Tickets are expensive.
I mean, we are beer country after all.
Tickets are expensive. There was a couple of beers that were off, a couple of beers. And if you're entering a competition, why the fuck would you not make sure that what you're sending is fine? Like, you just pick something randomly off the shelf. One brewery was particularly bad. All the beers were off. And then there was another one that wasn't great either.
Yeah.
But so far gone.
Like so far gone. And like across
just
4 beers
breweries
in the
that
range.
don't care.
So it's a brewery infection.
Yeah.
It's not like and we tried 2 or 3 beers
different
apart from the
like if you're handing that in, like you should be supremely confident.
Yeah.
Like not just here's a pack that I like.
I think there's a lot of guys that are just trying to
cash in. Cash in. To cash into the industry where there's no money.
And how? But in that situation where you've got all these like really off beers and you know it's all from the same brewery, then what gets said about it in that space?
We just disqualified it.
Okay. Cool. So it was
so
they know they did a shit job.
I don't know how much feedback they're giving them. I assume they will tell them.
Because I think that's where the problem lies. It's like everyone who's in the inner circle or the greater inner circle knows this and will avoid those beers. Someone from the public has
they don't, and that's how it gets a bad reputation.
Yeah, exactly. But then craft beer, unfortunately, gets a bad reputation.
Yeah,
because that's the first craft beer. It's like some worm gets that as his first craft beer. He's like, throw this shit away.
It tastes like TCP or something.
There were other beers up there as well, and don't speak badly about anyone, but like as a beer, they weren't off. They were just really bad beers. Like here's what you said, and this is what it says on the label. And this, whatever's in this glass, is not that because it tasted like you might have had that in the beginning, but you put 60% soda water in it, and it was like, so it was a thing. But with that specific awards, I think even having us judging it not as PJCP judges, it's a lifestyle awards. There's also a public vote. So it is kind of
they're trying to get it off the ground. So I think it was very much a feeling out process, but. Nevertheless,
but again,
off beer.
Again, if those beers are going out to the public,
I don't think they're going to be on the shelves of one of the biggest retailers, if not the biggest retailer in the country, for very long. Yeah. Didn't do themselves any favors. Let me put it that way.
If I could weigh in with somewhat wrapping up an answer to Ross's question, I think it's a bit of a tricky situation, a bit of a seesaw, because on the one hand, I think it's quite important to tell a brewer. Give direct feedback, or to maybe not police him and maybe not tell him that something's shit, but to say, listen, there is something wrong here. On the other hand, there's a different kind of mentality which was put up on a pedestal in terms of Michael Jackson, the guy from the States, who said, like, it's not his job to put beers down, it's his job to celebrate the good beers. So you've got that kind of, you find yourself on a bit of a, like I said, a seesaw of which side do I kind of choose. But I think in terms of a South African industry, I don't see why you can't do both. And I think as long as your intentions are good as a beer drinker, as a beer consumer, it's also difficult to kind of go to. It's so hard to go to someone, to go to a brewer.
Oh, it's so hard.
He might even be your friend.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not your friend, but
all
who the hell
why
are you to go up to someone and say something?
I disagree with you, Troy, because people need to, no, I honestly do, because if he's your friend, that's all the more reason. You don't have to stand in front of a group of people at a braai and say, your beers are so shit, don't ever make beer again. You know, just speak to them and say, listen, man, that was fucking disgusting.
I agree with you if there's a fault. If there's a fault, I would say, man, there's a fault in this beer.
Absolutely.
If it's something that is just too light for my taste, does it then become a personal thing where you go, well, it's a little bit light?
But that's the thing. I mean, you would have to know from your side.
Because the one brewery that we're talking about that was there they were just so bang averagely light, and everything that, like, if I tell you I'm going to give you a dessert with chocolate, pineapples and nuts and whatever, and then you get this thing that tastes like
Castle Light,
half of that, you're going to say, well, I didn't really deliver on the promise. And that's, for me, that's where it gets murky. Like, you can either step up and go, yeah, look, it was okay, but you could probably improve this. Just give it some more oomph. But if there's if it smells like diacetyl, like, then I would say,
no, but you got
100%, you got to sort that shit out.
Any negative news becomes an attack. So rather motivate a solution.
Yeah, sure.
Instead of beating on a negative. But you still need to tell him.
But that's what I like about
this is not right.
Just
but
get
try
in there
this,
and say, this is shit.
Yeah.
Because of this is how we suggest you go and fix it.
Okay, so to wrap it up, if you're going to maybe not criticize, but if you're going to point out a fault, you need to come with a solution.
Look,
exactly.
Remember Wolfgang from CBC when we did they were doing that series of things where they would invite other breweries and he would go around and taste every person's beer. And the one brewery that was there had a problem. And he said, this is what your problem is. I'm happy to come to your brewery and help you. Let me know when I can come. We'll fix it. Like, that's exactly the kind of stuff you need. Yeah. And that's Wolf. Like, the guy's going to make time, CBC brewmaster, master brewer.
So I think if everyone just had that attitude, it was just like, I'm going to invest a little bit of time. Instead of being like the guy that's, an official saying something about the beer, and because your whatever you say kind of goes, whether you're influential in the space or whatever, as long as you've got a solution and you can say to them, cool, this is what I suggest. And
let's just push stop there. I'm going to push stop.
So, how's that beer treating you?
It's a good brew. But it's a completely different beer.
Dude, what surprises me with that is...
Wait, stop talking.
Wow.
This is good stuff.
What's so much to say?
Okay, we'll just start recording. I'll make excuses for Carl.
It's recording. It's still recording.
Oh, it's still recording.
I don't think we should cut any of this out.
Yeah, I thought we were going to stop recording.
I honestly feel that
Carl has his dog here, which is basically a crossbreed. It's a cross between a Labrador and a crocodile.
And a Chewbacca.
And he's fucking cross.
He wants to play.
And he wants to play.
Furious, man.
So, he's furious. So Chew's been inside here, but what we were talking about...
I had a good point before we move on. I'm just trying to remember what it was.
When it comes back to you, it'll come back to you.
You just want to move along, man. Check this guy. He just wants to get it over with. This is the first one back.
Take it.
Look at that.
I know. Look at that.
What, can you remember your point?
I'm trying to. What were we talking about?
Well, I had half one. I'm with that beer there.
This is
super impressive. Like 8 months down the line as well.
Oh, I do. I remember it. Yeah.
I'm not trying to pat myself on the back too much, but I'm blown away.
But head retention on that beer is incredible. Like, there are proper breweries.
Bottle conditioned.
Bottle conditioned, Not one off flavor. The alcohol's still, I think that was part of the tasting notes, was still a little bit boozy.
But it doesn't detract from the drinkability of it.
Exactly.
At all.
So it adds to it and everything like that. And you got that spicy, light, candied, sultana.
I think
we should have another one in a month, and then if we still stop in another month.
Maybe we should
have
do
it on
is
the
try
beach.
some of this and then tell the monks what they're doing wrong.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
So we're now trying a beer which is in the same style as.
Yeah,
Same
so
style.
Made by
Exactly
one of the
Made by monks that have been doing it for like 7,000 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So when I made the beer, I envisioned making this beer.
So this beer came from, when was it? It was last year's festive beer. My friend,
This is Dutch.
our friend in the Netherlands, I think. Our friend Terry came to the festival and he bought this there, and then he gave it to me the other day when he came for dinner. So thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Nice, thanks to you.
Aiming that cork at me.
Sorry, dude.
Can you imagine?
No, I got Le Trappist. Is an authentic Dutch beer. It's been brewed within the walls of the Abbey of Onze Lieve Vrouw van Koningshoven since 1884.
Yeah,
So there you
it's
go.
a fair amount.
Casual amount of time.
150-ish and change potentially.
So it's a bit longer of a homebrew club. I mean, it's,
It's a bit of a homebrew club brewed under the supervision and responsibility of Trappist monks. Part of the profits donated to charity.
There are only, I'm trying to think how many abbeys there are. There are only 7.
is it 7 or 8? Yeah.
It's a minimum.
Yeah.
What
that's-
year was that, Greg? Sorry.
1804.
1884.
I think it's
1884.
1884.
Yeah, like this bottle's been aged a little bit scrappily, so a lot of
The bottle's not that old. But let's open it.
Okay, so that
Spicy
brewery is only
aroma.
133 years
Yeah,
old.
fresh
Easy,
on the block.
Easy.
Yeah.
I think SAB is a few years younger.
Right, enough.
I
I
think
feel
it's-
like we
I
should
think-
be opening this at Den Anker with like a big pot of mussels.
Mussels.
You're just going to have to imagine the muscles.
I think all the water that's brewed, all the water comes
Troy's
from
here, he's got
the,
muscles.
from the wells.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay,
See
wait.
what's this like.
No, I want to rinse this. Wait.
Oh, you want to rinse? Here we go.
Give me a.
Do you know what I do like about
nothing
that
else.
that beer so far? Is
No,
like
man. It's
you
my
look
glass.
you look at
You're
it.
rinsing, aren't you?
I just rinsed it.
Oh.
Is the it looks like it's gonna say something to you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's that old school Belgian
Just
design.
like we're not gonna
like
say
I
too
mean, not
much, but
Belgian.
we are gonna say this.
Yeah, it's yes, that looks dark, eh?
That looks.
Yo.
That looks.
I'm excited.
So
Now-
the color, if we can explain, this is actually matches the bottle color.
Yeah.
And I think that's... Oh my word. It's
So
like,
what
you can
makes
see-
it a
stop.
double? Can you just explain the double style or the double category?
Double
Dude, I-
hangover.
Please.
I actually
Double
found
the
this out today because there's a common misconception about it being, and anyone that's watching this can tell me if I'm wrong, about it being like single fermented, double fermented, triple fermented, quad fermented kind of thing.
Le Trapp.
But it's actually not the case. It's literally 4 individual styles within Trappist beers that have developed as a single or a blonde, a double, a triple, and a quad. All with very distinct characteristics. So like a blonde would be quite fruity, spicy, farmhouse ale kind of thing. A lot of almost like pear, apple, this, that, like delicious. The double is this, where you're dealing with more kind of toffee, caramel, quite fruity, spicy side of things. That's your double. And then when you go to your triple, which is one of my favorites, which would almost like put you in the headspace of, okay, well, we've gone kind of raisiny, it's going to be more. And it's not. It's like burnt orange and vanilla, and it's delicious.
I thought it was they used that more amounts of the ingredients. I don't know if that's right.
Triple the amount.
Might be-
I don't know, to be honest. I know I've read about it in the past, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, like
I'm
literally,
sure,
and
I'm
then
sure
a
I've
quad-
read
a
this
quad-
before, but I should
a
really
quad
do more
being
research
a
before I
quad to
get on here.
style. A quad to style is like rum, raisin, dark fruits, like plum, thick, like almost that like sherry kind of vibe. That's why I think they do a lot of oak age, like an oak age quad is like quite
Got
a
a
big
very
thing.
like
It's
Okay.
raisins.
Toffee.
Your
Yeah,
raisins
so
and toffee.
listen, let's just compare the two
Yeah.
beers. I mean, this on the nose.
the
I
nose
think
is amazing. Yeah.
the nose on this is amazing.
It's still
Like,
pretty. It's still pretty boozy.
something
I'm
about
definitely getting like a toffee apple,
Yeah.
very candied sugar.
Yeah.
Which is very them.
Very
That's what they
on
do.
the
It's
point.
it's Now, if you think about, I'm just thinking about with the score that was given to us, we got a 42 out of 50.
Boom.
This is obviously a 50. This is obviously a 50 out of 50.
Really good.
And you can see where those 8 points are kind of lacking.
Our Roma, it wasn't as intense as this.
This is so sugary. You can almost feels like
It's like candy floss once you get to the back end of this.
50
thing.
out of
It's
50.
delicious.
Although
It's really good.
the next
It's
120
almost
years,
like
I'm sure we can get 50 out of 50.
Like, that is really good.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Listen,
I
they
think
do
the smell is incredible. It's weird. Like I get over the years that I've developed my palates, but I think your nasal passage has developed as well.
The olfactory system.
It's really started to appreciate a lot of the smells.
But
And
you must do
all
the
connected though.
the retronasal where you.
Yeah.
What the hell is the
Retronasal olfaction.
It's the best, man.
boom.
You-
what to explain?
so you've got to. Do you
That's
exhale first, or do
schnapping
you?
saline solution and then vomit.
So take
No, you
take
take it in
a
your
take
mouth,
a
you
big
swirl it around,
take
you
a-
swallow,
take-
and then you breathe out through your nose.
inhale as you take a sip, and then block your nose and shake your palate like this, and then as you swallow, exhale through your nose, and then it pushes everything up into your olfactory system, and it makes you taste.
So it's kind of like when you burp.
Kind of, but
And you
through,
get that-
through your nose, yeah.
When you burp through your nose.
See, now
Because your
I have a
taste
different.
buds,
horrible.
everything is connected.
Especially if it's
Can I introduce a more
hectic.
subtle way of doing that? When you sniff, open your mouth.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Open your whole thing.
Open your hole.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're going to hold
in your whole mouth.
Open your. Sure, I can see the beers have started to
This beer's amazing. What is it?
Do you know that also within a glass, when we did a tasting session with Dougal, who's the head brewer from Innocent Gun,
That was interesting.
you actually get different tasting.
That will not be denied.
You actually get different tasting zones within the glass.
Yeah.
So if you put your nose right against that bottom lip, you're getting a lot of the heavier aromas
Yes.
because of the esters, phenols, whatever's happening within the glass, as opposed to the middle and then right up at the top.
We're getting super specific now.
Very much so.
I love that
Yeah.
because what you're saying to add on to that is that every beer has its ambient sniffing range.
Yes. No, exactly.
Can we
Like
say that?
where-
Like you would never
like
You
if
just
you
made up
actually
the terms,
if you kind of work your snout around the glass while it's
yeah. Jeez, really, you'd have to do
Yeah, no,
the
this
comfort of your own home and not while you're out with the wife.
But
I don't do it. I do it often in
Sniffing
restaurants.
around.
People think I'm weird.
Yeah.
No.
No, but whiskey's the same.
Yeah.
If you smell, if you want to smell the whiskey, you take the nose to the end of the glass.
I would say this is probably one of the nicest smelling beers I've ever had the privilege of smelling.
It's taken me a long time to appreciate this, like doubles, triples, quads. I was never a fan in the beginning. Belgian style. I mean, these are not Belgian, but it's the same style of beer. And I've finally come around. And I'm so happy that I have because it feels like growth.
Yeah. Dude, I never used to drink.
No, never at all. When
Yeah,
remember when
like
0932 was still next door to.
I was
when-
like the head
Yeah,
bartender
you were
there
there.
for a while. Like
They-
at the Belgian beer restaurant in Cape Town. I was like,
when they
this
closed
is
down, I
rubbish.
went
Can
next
get a
door
castle?
and bought a whole bunch of beers,
Yeah.
and we were like, "This is terrible."
Yeah.
It was so naive.
There's some level of respect.
Nut after you would. I'll tell you what.
Let's all go to Belgium.
Do you think it's going to take us 133 years to get those 8 points from?
I don't,
132.
man, I don't know. If you look at someone like when Garrett Oliver was here, like sure he's been brewing for 30 years, but yes, as that guy make their beers are incredible. And there's 30 years on, but I think it's as creative and as far as you want to push it. You get lazy brewers who brew. We've got our core lineup of lager, Weiss, and whatever it is.
Pale Vice.
The guys that are doing like the Rorys of the world and the guys that are really pushing it, you're going to get better. You have to get better. There's no other way.
I think I'd like to take the positive out of things, and I think we're in a very fortunate situation where we are just dipping our toes into an already energetic market, and that I think everything's kind of on our side. It's up to us. The ball's in our court in terms of getting up to speed, and then once we have those expertise and knowledge, we can start incorporating our own kind of creativity and South African ingredients, or it doesn't have to be ingredients. But I know that you guys did a talk about it, South African beer culture. We don't have to talk too much about that, but I think
You've opened the
I'm
can
s-
now.
I'm-
Bro, you've opened the handbrake. No, like you've released the handbrake.
I'm
The
so,
horses are out the stable.
and they're off. Yeah. I'm so happy that the discussion has started, and I'm
very happy
sure
to
it
hear
has
that.
been going on for some time now. But I'm glad it's out into the public in terms of identifying a South African culture, a beer culture. As Lucy
Yeah.
Korn said, we've had a drinking culture in South Africa. We haven't had a beer culture, and I think while I'm alive, I think that's one of my goals is to, and I think all of us.
Sure.
It's not just me, but
Yeah.
it's something that I think we all are trying to push for. Well, I say that hopefully all of us, most of us, but I think that's something we should be pushing for as a beer culture.
Well, yeah.
When I was leaving the airports at Munich, and I'm leaving Munich airports, and there's a flight. It was jam packed. It was going to Dublin, Ireland, and it just got me thinking in terms of these people are in a romantic world. They're all flying to Dublin to go drink some Guinness.
Stop
They're
off
going,
at
they're,
Guinness.
going, they're going from one
Yeah.
European city to another, and that's on a micro level, like where you're going into a different town. It's maybe an hour flight, 2 hour flight, and you get in a completely different beer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was thinking like, why aren't people flying to Cape Town? Why aren't people flying to Zanin or Maritzburg, to go try that specific beer? And I think, Ross, to answer your question again, like, it won't take us 133 years. It'll take us maybe 33 years. And that's being optimistic, but I think it could be even sooner. So I think let's remember this. In 33 years' time, we'll come back again.
Well, we don't have to be on the internet.
Yeah.
The internet never forgets.
Never.
We'll just upload our thoughts via our connected Google.
Look, I think
brain scan.
you are getting that sort of micro happening here because, again, if you look at someone like Rory Ager, you have to go there to get his beers. And every single person that comes to Cape Town who knows anything about beer, mostly from Joburg, the first place they go is to Ager because he has that reputation and he earned it. Like, his beers are fucking amazing.
Yeah, Cape Town itself.
Yeah.
Cape Town has almost also become like a little city within the city. Like people are going to Franschhoek to visit.
Yeah, I mean, Franschhoek
certain
is
breweries.
exploding. Yeah,
People are going to Nurture.
yeah.
So we
But
have
I
our
like the
little,
fact that you got
we
to
have
go
our
there.
little map.
Yeah.
But yes, to go further, Joburg, Durban.
But there's not much
We'll get
happening up there. Like, we were up there now, and like there was the beers. Not to be funny, but the beers that we all entered from Joburg were not very good. Like, and I don't want to be the dick who says that, but they weren't. They were not very good. And
Don't be a dick, Carl.
but the Joburg homebrew scene, from what I understand,
Homebrew
the
scene
homebrew scene
kicks
is
South Africa.
exploding.
Yeah.
It's like the Southeasters, I love you guys, struggle to get like 10 people in a room. Over there, it's like
You have to book.
the neighborhoods have got
buy
their own.
tickets, this, that,
If you don't
There's
book,
like
you
6.
cannot go.
It's like going.
That's also based on numbers, though.
Yeah,
There's more people in
There's
Joburg.
more, sure, but the interest level is off the charts. Like,
Yeah.
the guys are like, it's
Which
the same.
bodes well. You know,
What
which
are we
bodes
doing?
well for brewing in Joburg because that was always the thing.
10 years from now, hopefully
Yeah,
it'll
the
translate.
Southeasters was the R&D department for South Africa craft beer 10 years ago in Cape Town. That's where a lot of these breweries that exist now
still
that are
more,
doing well started. You know, which is it's great. So, which is really good for Joburg. You know,
I think we
Thanks, man.
we're going in the right direction. So
I say this
gotta
with
keep faith.
the utmost respect, and I think most people know it, but I think brewers in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, and brewers in Joburg realize that maybe Cape Town has as pole position, but I'm all for more brewers coming from outside of Western Cape to kind of
Absolutely.
push that thing.
Yeah,
Because
dude,
when you have someone pushing that, then it just creates a much better industry. Competitive industry is one that we need. We can't just rest on the Western Cape.
No,
And it
not
is
at all.
it is happening. I am seeing guys. I was in KZN this weekend now, and actually I had one of those moments where I had a beer and I was like, oh,
It was pretty good.
where did you get this from?
Yeah.
Which Western Cape brewer did? No, I didn't say that, but it was actually it was spot on in terms of stylistic accuracy.
But you know, it's like anything. It's like competition makes things better. And the competition down here is stiff. So if everyone's up there is doing average stuff and everyone's going, oh, this is pretty good, you're going to get average beers. But down here, it's tough, man. If your beers are not good, and all the most vocal people are down here, and there's quite a few of them that'll tell you your beer is shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This beer, on the other hand,
this beer is
This is
delicious.
it's not shit.
Ain't nothing shit about this.
No.
So, for those of you listening,
Really
again,
nice.
this was the La Trappist Dubbel Special Edition 2018. Oh, look at that. That is delicious. I think, can I just say thank you for bringing this beer? I think that
You're welcome. It was
delicious. Let's.
We're on to the last one.
I think we're on to the last
Are you
one.
still hearing the dogs bark?
I am still. Don't try to kick the dogs out.
I just
Kick the
did.
dogs
I
out.
did
Okay,
that.
we're tapping out. We're kicking the dogs out quickly.
Okay, dogs
Carl's
kicked out.
crocodile.
Can we
cross
just?
breed.
Should we see if they'll just settle down?
No.
No.
Dude, your dog's not going to sit. Face is fine, but you won't settle down. You know,
Who let the dogs in?
Who let the dogs in?
You didn't even know you did that, did you? Who let the dogs in?
yeah.
Carl's new
T-Bone,
hits coming up now.
You must chop up, whether you use this or not, you must chop little sections of this out and just add it in there. Just as like a little ad break. Like,
give them 5 minutes to get this down.
okay,
Don't worry,
calm,
just
hey,
don't have to
guys,
find
calm
calls.
down, please. We're trying to do a
Yeah.
serious
We're trying to do
show
a
here.
podcast, but come, Flash.
This is important stuff.
Come here. Come here, Flashy. Come here, Flashy.
Sit, sit, sit.
Shit.
You have to go.
No. Judy's going to be here in 2 minutes, but I need to help her with a whole bunch of bags.
Well, let's.
I love Flash.
Is she in 2 minutes or?
No. Come here.
Guys, let's finish so we can get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come.
If
Okay.
you have to go, you have to
Put
go,
him
Bruce.
outside.
I don't think
Out,
it's a
out,
problem.
out,
T-Bone,
out,
is it a problem if
out,
Tony steps
out,
out to help his wife?
Get out. Place.
Place, outside. Yeah, Tony, if you need to.
Let me just go quickly.
Oh, do you need to go? We'll save some of this for you. We won't
Thank
finish.
you.
I'm not going to say fuck all for you, man.
Yeah, no, right. Neither.
Cool. We've done an hour in 10 minutes. That's good.
Sorry, let's give him the last one. Oh,
This
sorry, that last little bit in there.
was delicious.
Dude, it's yummy, yeah.
This.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I know, but we can't have them in here, man.
Man, I wish that ice
Jay,
cream,
leave them
I
outside,
wish that
out the
ice
front
cream
door.
beer was, that ice lolly thing was a little bit less sweet, because that would have been a winner.
Dude,
Nah,
we're going
but
to try that pacifist after.
Dude, now we got this, but I'm not gonna.
Don't spoil the surprise.
Don't spoil the surprise.
I like
Should we
the
wait for
flavor.
Tony?
Just give him a minute and see what he's doing.
No. Through the South African craft beer identity thing was an interesting talk, and something actually popped afterwards because we had the
Greg, I know,
talk.
you know, I'm sad to say this, but like whatever you're about to say is going to be good content.
I know, you're going to,
I thought, are we not? still
Thank you,
recording?
Ross. I appreciate
No,
it.
it's just no.
Always
I know,
be-
No, but it is good
because
content.
I know.
It's
So, look,
I thought
yeah.
we were still going. Sorry.
just
We are still going.
Close
So
the door and just record, bro. It's like I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tony will come in just now. It adds to the vibe.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah,
we're waiting for Tony, but
but we're not.
No, we're not.
Please continue.
Tony will be back with.
See, we're just gonna pretend this is Tony. He's smiling. He doesn't look like Aquaman, but I mean,
he was smiling.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Greg?
What were you saying? You were saying
what
something
I,
about
what
South
I was
African
saying. I mean, we're gonna broad stroke it quickly.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
That kind of show.
About South African craft beer identity. It was a conversation that happened, and it happened a lot of times, and it will continue happening. And the funny thing is, myself and Carl didn't actually agree on the whole thing when it all started. And anyway, long story short, we went, did the talk after chatting, and kind of settled on a couple of things. Number one is that there is inspiration everywhere, and the beers are not about let's use this ingredient. Let's do this thing. Let's cover the bottle in beads. Let's, whatever it is. There's too much inspiration.
To make it South African.
To make it South African, to pin it on any one thing. And to pin it on any one thing is robbing ourselves of inspiration across the board. We live in the Wild West. It's chaos, and we should use that. But the other side of that coin is we need to make award-winning global standout beers. There needs to be beer that backs it up, that can stand alone on a world stage and win awards.
Yeah.
But we are standing in the shadow
So-
of the SAB.
No, we
sure.
are, and but those are also award-winning beers. If you actually look at it,
But exactly, but this is what I'm saying. SAB is like those beers win awards all the time.
no, for sure.
So if
globally,
the craft beer scene is almost like the little cousin that's like, I'm as good as you, man, but like,
no,
let
but
us in.
you've got guys like Devil's Peak, like Jack Black, like specifically CBC, that are standalone award-winning beers globally, which is great because those are the kind of beers that are going to take the industry forward. But, you know, when you kind of merge that with this craft beer identity, which is this like unicorn thing, where I kind of settled on, and this was post the powwow, after you have this thing running around in your head and during your hangover and all the rest of it, is that we live in a storytelling country. So we love to tell stories around a fire. You know, that is what makes us, a lot of what makes us South Africans. So you've got beers that do that. Guys like Letu de Kumba that's making the sorghum saison. That is a full-on story. Exactly. That is inspired by Umkomboti from the Rondavels in the Transkei, using craft beer mentality to make a saison, a sorghum saison.
Which is a really old style.
And
it's beautiful.
There's nothing more African.
Like tells a story.
Exactly.
Like Devil's Peak, King's Blockhouse. Yes, you know, it's. We said it before, and we said it at the thing. Everybody remembers where they were when Springboks won the World Cup, and everybody remembers where they were when they had their first blockhouse.
Yeah,
like it's like that, but it's the full package. It's the King's Blockhouse. It's Devil's Peak. It's a great beer that backs it up. You know, you've got Darling Bone Crusher, same story. Hyena Skulls, Conservation, great beer. It's a Belgian wit beer. It's not a South African style. It's not but it is a great beer.
It has some sort of South African identity.
You know, it's so cool, and it's a full package. You know, we did ours with Moor Coffee. You know, you have a bottle of that. It tells a story. Yeah. So I mean, that's where it kind of.
Or at least people want to know more why it's like that.
Yeah, that's where it kind of.
It
landed
invites
for me.
people into that.
Look, I mean, to your regional thing, I don't care where we make the beer. We can make it in Brandvlei.
Welcome back.
Hey, did you get a package?
Oh, I came back with a beer.
He's the only one. At least he got a.
Tell your story. Tell the story.
At least he got a package. I didn't get a package.
Tony's just walked in with a beer, which is the.
Which I paid 111.
11 rand.
So you're getting your bang for your buck now.
Yes.
Sure.
Tony's just walked in with a beer that Troy was given literally
an
2 hours ago.
Yeah, the press drop was today.
And he said, look, press drop was clearly today. He's like, listen, maybe I'll save this for another time, but this beer is just edging its way into the show. So I think it's time.
I'm gonna overrule. I want to give them the respect that they deserve. They managed to give us a beautiful package.
So I'm gonna underrule. And
I thought this was a beer.
I think let's finish with that.
Okay.
I mean, this is not the T-Bone show. This is the
No, let's drink this one. Let's drink this one.
Cartel special.
We'll just let this one settle for a while.
Well, yeah, the horse is galloping now.
It is the new triple hop from Duval. Oof.
So, folks,
probably shouldn't drink it now.
Next week, if you want to find out what it's like, tune in. Okay.
Gotta have a look.
Greg,
this is Omnipolo again. Lucky enough to get this beer from a mate of mine that came over to Africa Burn from Germany, and I bought this with him to say thank you for whatever the story was in the dust. And we are dealing with
it's dark.
Oil.
Something that
thick
is pouring,
syrupy.
like old Land Rover oil.
There we go.
Yeah.
Glug, glug.
Cluggity glug.
Come bring it right by the mic here. There we go.
Dude,
Can't even hear it.
Dude, it's so oily you can't even hear it.
It's viscous. That's
slick.
the word.
It's viscous and slick, and it is listen, I mean, it's fitting because we started with an Omnipolo.
And guys, can I say?
And we're finishing with an Omnipolo.
Can I say we spoke about it earlier
like that response.
about the different ambience nose ranges. This is that beer to kind of find.
It smells.
Jeez,
It
man.
smells like
It's chocolate
Why don't we
cake
pick it
in your face.
Okay, Ross is getting chocolate cake.
I'm going to chocolate.
You guys guess first, and then I'll tell you what it is.
This is hazelnut.
Do you remember growing up? You used to, if you were lucky enough to have
the chocolate
desserts
sauce.
after dinner,
hang on.
you'd have vanilla ice cream,
Yeah.
and there were two types of chocolate
Take a
sauce.
sip.
Yeah.
There were two types
I'll
of
tell
chocolate
you why.
sauce.
One was
One was the
Sorry.
hard crack one.
Yeah,
Ice
the
cap.
And
ice
one
cap.
was the soft one.
The soft one was the one in the
Illovo,
orange, the
yeah,
orange
I'll
and brown
tell you
squeezy.
why.
Oh, I'm just going to show the people.
Now we're all shouting over each other.
So excited about this beer. Cheers.
Listen,
Okay, Greg, you wanna say
No, I'm sorry.
I'm not drinking.
Before
I'm
no one's had a sip.
not
Nobody's
that.
had a
Only
sip.
Tony's not allowed to drink
okay.
because he's allergic to pecans.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
I'll take my chances.
Sorry, buddy.
I'll take my
no,
chances.
no, I hate Tony,
Hates
we
the
love
pen
you.
Cool, it's cool. We'll take it, buddy. We'll take it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take my chances.
Like I wasn't trying
Is it
to
really-
talk.
is it nuts
dude,
or
it's
extract?
called pecan mud cake and it's made with pecan nuts.
So,
I'll see.
I don't think you did, Tony.
No.
Tony,
We'll have
Listen, it'll make for a great podcast.
the outtakes of him like blowing up.
I'm not joking.
I'm a bit
but
of a dilemma here. Just
Ew,
to...
it smells so good.
Okay, guys, what are we picking up? We're picking up chocolate.
it's like I said, it's omnipolar and it's called Aeon
mama.
or Eon pecan mud cake.
That is delicious.
So
it's nuts.
cocoa, vanilla, nutty.
I mean, on the nose itself, like I would love to nose.
Oh!
See what I did there? I would love to know how do you get? This is a
That much
question from
chocolate.
someone who's recently been introduced to making beer. How do you get that nose that smells like that?
Crazy.
Because this, I used to have a chocolate cake made for me every birthday by one of my mom's very close friends. She used to make one of those flat tray chocolate cakes,
Yeah.
and in that cake, I think it was standard chocolate cake, but she used to add a little bit of coffee, and I think there might have been some sort of nut in there.
Yeah.
Delicious, like it was just the most amazing thing. The first thing that I smelled.
Oh.
I went straight
That
back there.
cake.
I was like 11-year-old,
Nice,
11 years old,
nice.
climbing out the swimming pool.
But isn't that
freezing cold.
amazing that beer can do that? Just close and smells and everything like that. Straight back.
But how do they do
Stains
that?
the glass.
This
So,
this
so
the
what's
thing.
your question? How do
My
they
question
do?
is
How do they get that
do you
much
that
chocolate?
yeah, how do you get that amount of whatever it is you put in
Nostalgic
there?
memory.
No, it's not just it's not like you've taken a bottle of Kahlua or a bottle of whatever,
Okay.
thrown it in there.
One word. Budget.
budget.
Yeah.
So this
Having a really big ingredient.
this
budget.
is
Because
11%.
Massive.
What does it tell you? That they've put in a lot of
Sweet.
a lot of
Sugar, yeah.
a lot of that's the word. A lot of sugar, a lot of malt. This is what we usually make in our usual recipes.
Really good.
They've doubled, if not tripled, the grain bill. So it's really intense. You're going to get a lot of dark sugars. Maybe not a lot of chocolate malted sugars, but you're still getting that high alcohol booziness, which is contributing to a lot of that aroma. But
Would you even sparge this, or would you just use a first run?
No, you would. There is a bit of boil off.
Yeah.
But there's
From what-
definitely some chocolate or something.
There
No,
is
I
a
mean,
bit of
there's
lactose.
cocoa
Something
nibs
like-
and vanilla and
Yeah, yeah,
lactose and
Even-
But
not
again,
nuts. And
does that get added in later on or at the beginning of the?
Big,
No,
well,
it's-
during
yeah,
the making, during the fermentation, I don't think so. But during maybe it all happens in the
But you're going to
mash.
do it in the boil. So
I'm
it's
trying
like,
to. If I had to make this beer, which I think we should try, the majority of what you're smelling now would happen in the brewing process. In the mash.
The pecans are kicked in.
Guys,
Yes, we got his beer.
got shit from the ambulance.
No, we get.
That's you had me there.
This show has just gone off.
It's so
still fun.
sexual.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, but
so
you know what,
smooth
this-
and sexy.
Do you remember at the beer house?
Talk
we
while
went
you still
to-
can, Tony.
Before your throat
No, there was those guys that came. What I'm trying to get to is that the flavors, whatever they put in here, it's done in a lab. So it's concentrated. They put it in the beer.
Juiced
So
down,
the consistency is. 100%.
So-
there's no raw. I don't think there's any raw
Do you think so though?
ingredients.
think they have-
like
do you-
pecan
don't-
nuts and?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think they're
no,
more
no,
pecan nuts
yeah,
in
this
it.
is not just mine.
I
I mean,
don't
there's
know.
like cocoa and vanilla.
There's
and
so many
like
things going on here.
So many, like
But
you
like-
basically,
but it's all
but you basically
scientifically
made a cake.
Made. It's
In a beer.
But did you make the cake and then throw it in the mash? Like while it was like.
I don't know, but I think it's a good idea. I think we should do that.
Let's take,
Talk
who's
to
the,
me.
if you still
Talk
got that
to me.
lady, who's the lady who made the cakes? We just take a whole, like 5 trays and
Dunk a whole bunch
But it
of
has to be
sugar.
concentrated.
I
There's
think I've experimented a bit. I've touched on experimenting with different sugars in the beer process, and I think the one thing I've learned is that it is, you do it in the brewing process, but you've also got to do it in the secondary process. From what I've seen, because sometimes that flavor gets lost in the brewing process.
Doesn't translate over.
For example, and I could be speaking out of my arse here, but if you added a chocolate cake in the mash, I don't know how that would work out. You would need to add some kind of lactose sugar in the secondary, or maybe after the post boil, because some stuff gets lost. That's just what I've seen in terms of sugars in getting that specific sugar.
You know what amazes me? Are we done? Like, we're not talking content anymore?
We still
Are we still recording? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to talk about recording. What amazes me is that, or not amazes me, what actually fucking disappoints me is that there's never been a beer like this in South Africa.
No.
Never.
Not this big. No.
Like, not this
Devil's
big.
Peak?
Not this
Well,
big.
no. Devil's Peak did
No, they
milking.
tried. They tried, and it
milking
tasted,
it.
but it tasted like a boozy version of
Yeah,
this.
it was very boozy.
Like super.
Because we had one recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very
But
boozy.
super boozy. This is still at 11% balanced.
Yes. No, true.
No, but
You
you
know,
think,
this is it's not quite there, but it's going into like USA territory where at the 10.5%, 11.5% Yetis and KBSs and everything, I still think it's lighter in body than some of those
I don't
beers.
know. It's
but you
pretty.
think it's because we've been drinking the other beers?
Well, no. I mean, we had a good progression up
No,
to
I mean,
this.
that's
Like if you started with that.
That's when you
No,
that's
you
not-
can't. You'd be,
No, but what I'm saying is,
you'd be wrecked.
when you tasted Devil's Peak, at most times you haven't tasted any other beers. Maybe
no,
you've had
sure.
one or two, but
No, but
No,
it's a thinner
Yeah.
beer with the same alcohol. So the booziness is really kind of like prominent, where this has got enough backbone to stand up to 11%, which I don't think has happened in South Africa ever. I think probably Rory's wrist, but I mean that was a different beer. That's,
If you had to,
it's not here.
if you had to
it's
have
a
that
different
now,
beer.
it would be very thin.
No, but I mean that was red wine barrels, I think, and that was Russian Imperial. So that's like roasty, toasty red wine. So it's not cocoa and vanilla and all the rest.
How do
of
we
it.
get more of this?
Yeah, right.
That's
Where do we
the
get
current
more?
No, dude,
problem.
dude, we're getting Founders KBS and CBS, 2 bottles of each that are arriving back on the 1st of July.
This is going to go out to
750 ml bottles.
This is going out to people who
So
listen and
we-
who know you. So
yeah, we
you
are
got to be very
literally-
careful
Yeah, so
in terms of who
Choose
you
your
tell.
next words wisely.
No,
Yeah.
it's a cart horse thing.
Yeah.
We said in the very beginning, it's the most amazing club you can't be part of.
Well, look, I think when it comes to these kind of Russian Imperial stouts, dark beers, if you can find a beer, I'm always on the lookout. When I look at beer labels, I'm always looking for that Riz. And I think when you come across beers like this, beers like the Dogfish Sea, what is it? The
Sequence.
Oh no, not Dogfish. Sorry, Brewdog.
Dogfish.
Brewdog
Jet Black Heart.
batch number C. It was the
Abstract.
60%.
the abstract, the weird ones.
God,
with the different
it's one of my favorite beers, and I can't believe I'm blanking now. But it really
Paradox. I like
Paradox.
it, yeah.
Brewed at Heaven Hills.
Heaven Hill Paradox.
That's
that
the
was
one.
So
When you
good.
find something like that, you
The
need to
Compass was the other one, no?
you
Yeah,
need to
but
tell
then-
your friends
Yeah.
and just keep it close. But we've been recording for quite a bit now, so I think it's
Yeah.
time to almost like
Tap out.
tap out. But I wanted to ask a Cartos question.
Okay, wait.
We
one
are a
more-
democracy, but
one-
Greg, you wanted to
No,
say
no,
something.
one more thing that I'll say about this beer is I love the fact that a beer like that can look like this.
Explain to the people.
Like, everyone's not listening now. Literally, you've got this plain blank bottle with a smiley face with a tongue sticking out.
But it makes
And
sense.
it's one of the biggest beers I think we've probably ever had. It's,
Probably one of our favorites.
it's great.
And how much marketing budget do you think they put on
I know, right.
the design budget?
It's probably like if that beer was in South Africa, it would be the most serious beer any of us have probably ever drank, give or take. And the thing's got a smiley face on the bottle. I love it. Okay.
Great. So, what I want to end with is, I'm sure a lot of the people might be unfortunate enough not to try the Belgian double, the double double that we made, but I'm sure that they can maybe try something that we're going to make next. And so that's what I wanted to ask you guys. What should we make next? And this is a group discussion. I'm going to start the ball, and I'm going to put down a.
Basically, you're dictating what we're
No,
going
no,
to do.
Look, one day we'll eventually get round to Greg's.
To a general consensus.
Greg's.
yeah.
What you?
To a
Greg's always wanted to
diplomatic-
make a something beer.
A Brett Sours.
No, we're
Bread
not
salad.
making it.
Oh, no,
We're going into
they were
winter.
really
Come on, we got to stick
I-
with the theme here.
I'd like to do I'm going to name it the slow starter start. And I think we haven't really done a dark beer.
I'm in if it's a dark beer, whatever it is. I'm in.
Because I'd like to either play with coffee or chocolate. And I think
Oh, coffee, you say. We made
Something-
a thing or two about that.
yeah,
How about coffee and condensed milk?
if only someone was making that. But
If only.
I want to make that beer.
you
Yeah,
want to make
let's
that
make this-
I want to make I want to make something.
Let's make something-
We could put in the
So why don't
750
we-
ml
yeah,
bottle.
exactly.
Let's
Hey.
make 11%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done
How
it.
about this?
Like we make.
How about this? We do a first runnings and a second runnings.
Yes.
Yes.
So that first
Yeah, yeah.
bit that comes
Oh,
out of
lovely.
the
Yeah.
mash tun,
And two separate
and
fermentations.
then we do.
Can we get coconuts? Because I can get coconuts.
You know
can
what?
get coconuts.
We can do coconut.
Ross also knows guys. He knows
I know
coconuts.
people.
Guys and girls.
I know people that schnauf coconuts.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we should call it a day on Hosting.
I think we should book a day,
Yes.
get some bra meat,
Yeah.
make a bra,
Yes.
drink beer,
and
brew beer.
invite anyone who listens to
Yes.
this.
When we were. Yes.
We should do a live
Sure way.
streaming of us.
When you say
brewing
bra,
beer.
you see how Greg's ears.
He's like, yeah, yes.
And it wasn't even that. It was the first run, second run thing that actually got me.
Yeah.
Because that was like, we wrote an article ages ago about like, that was how they used to make beer.
Fullers,
And you'd get your strong, medium,
Yep.
and pale.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's how
Fullers. Don't
that's
they
how
still
you
do that
got
with
it.
Fullers? Oh,
Cool.
Some batches.
yeah.
Guys, Cart Horse,
Boom.
Mr. Tony, Mr. Greg, Mr. Cole, Mr. Ross, thank you very much. Did you have fun?
It's always fun.
It's always fun drinking beer,
Yes.
talking about it.
Spectacular.
And it goes by so quickly.
Oh.
And for all our listeners, I'm glad you are back. I'm glad I'm back. And I'm glad we're doing this thing again.
Peace.
Stop going on holiday.
T-Bone out. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.